This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. This is a big one. The Browns offensive line. What are my expectations for them? If you've listened to my coverage in the offseason, you would know that this is not a part of the team, healthy or not, that I feel great about right now. Now, it's not to say that I feel horrible about the Browns offensive line and I think they're going to be one of the worst in the NFL this year. That is nowhere close to where I am. The Browns will, at worst, have a league average to slightly below league average. Like, that's their floor offensive line. Like, they're not going to dip below 20th in the NFL. In some numbers, they may dip below 20, but that's not because of the fact that they can't play on the offensive line. Fact is that you still got Wyatt Teller. You still got Joe Bitonio. Ethan Posick's a good center. You have a young prospect in DeJuan Jones. If he does not play, you have Jack Conklin. And Jed Wills, if that's your worst offensive lineman, you're doing fine. You're doing fine. It's not the worst thing in the world that your worst offensive lineman is Jed Wills. Now, if your best offensive lineman was Jed Wills, you'd be in a different situation where obviously would not be great. But since that is not the case, and it's the exact opposite that we're talking about, it's not the worst thing in the world. Not the greatest, not the worst. It's in that area that the internet don't know how to deal with, right? When the Browns got something that's in the best in the league, we know how to pound our chest about that. When the Browns have a unit that's horrible, we know how to rant and rave about that. But when the Browns got a unit that's okay, we lose our minds. Because, like, for whatever reason, we can't process that the room is possibly disappointing, but ultimately not disastrous. That is not a place that the internet allows you to sit at for long. So that is my 2 cents on the overall room. What are my expectations for this room, and how am I going to set expectations for the offensive line? This is a difficult one to set expectations for because stats on the offensive line are hard to come by and require a ton of context to matter. Like, if there was one place where stats are completely useless, I would say the offensive line is probably one of them. Even the stats we know about, sacks allowed, quarterback hits, quarterback hurries, pressures, those stats kind of stink. And the reason those stats stink is because you can get a sack without playing bad as an offensive line. You can give up a pressure without playing bad on the offensive line. This could be a matter of the mic point being wrong. This could be a matter of the adjustments on the line of scrimmage being wrong. This could be a matter of your quarterback not being where they're supposed to be, or blowing their def and making it so that they're running into natural angles that you would run players through. There's a lot of reasons a sack can be allowed, a hit can be allowed, or a hurry or a pressure can be allowed that does not really mean that the offensive line played bad. So again, hard to quantify, super hard to quantify. And it's honestly something that you only can really figure out by paying close attention to on a case-by-case basis, and then taking that information and building a larger case. So last year, if we want to look at some numbers, here's what we can do. Last year, the Cleveland Browns gave up 24 sacks, 32 hits, 142 hurries, and 198 pressures. It's not terrible. It's not great, right? For example, the Miami Dolphins last year, who I would consider to be the bar of where you want to go, they gave up 20 sacks compared to Cleveland's 24. They only gave up 13 quarterback hits compared to Cleveland's 32. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those quarterback hits that Cleveland took are influenced by quarterback style of play. Tua gets rid of that ball quickly, doesn't hold on to the ball. You can't say the same for a lot of quarterbacks that played for the Cleveland Browns last year. And also, they didn't have as many injuries, but still. Hurries. The Miami Dolphins had about 81 hurries allowed. The Cleveland Browns 142. And then pressures 114 to 198. If I have to pick a set of stats for the offensive line to push towards, I want them to be around that level when it comes to that cumulative stuff. And again, yes, I do think the Browns have issues on the offensive line, issues that are going to require some long-term solutions next offseason. I think right now for this year, you can get by in the short term, right? Jed Wills, you have Jack Conklin as a piece to flip around there in case things get weird with Jed this year. You also have Jack Conklin if things get weird for DeJuan. You got DeJuan Jones there, which is pretty good. And then you have that solid interior. Like, they have enough to hold it down for now. The questions I have about the Browns offensive lines aren't about the 2024 season as much as they are about the future of the team overall, because we know that Joe Bitonio is going to retire much sooner than later. Wyatt Teller is a question of how long he's going to be playing at a high level. It seems like he's dipping off a little bit right now. Jack Conklin, again, feels like he's closer to retirement than he is to another contract. Jedrick Wills is on the last year of his deal. And Ethan Posick, even though he's a good player, he's getting closer and closer to the end of his deal, which means that you got a lot of uncertainty on this offensive line for next year. You could be in a situation where Baltimore's in, where you end up starting 3 new offensive linemen, and who knows how that's going to work out for Baltimore. But for right now, for this year, they got enough to hold it down for what they need to do in the short term. So I'm not really worried about that. But we're not just going to talk about the offensive line when it comes to pass protection, because I think there's one player who plays a significant role in this that needs to be discussed, and that's Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson and the quarterback in general has a huge role in what a lot of these numbers look like, right? The sacks allowed, the quarterback hits, the hurries, the pressures. It has a lot to do with how you play the quarterback position. Like, if you look at the Browns numbers that I pulled up, and you look at like Kansas City's numbers or Cincinnati when Joe Burrow plays a full season's numbers, they don't look that different, or they might even look worse than what the Cleveland Browns have. And it's not because those lines are worse than like pulling out Garyon Christian and James Hudson. It's because that's just how those quarterbacks play. They open up themselves to get tackled behind the line of scrimmage a bit more often, and it's been worth that sacrifice because those quarterbacks can play make at a high level. Now, Deshaun Watson, to his credit, has gotten, from what I can tell in a small sample size, mind you, he's gotten better at this. He's gotten to be more mindful about where he sits in the pocket. He's gotten to be more mindful about what angles he's giving defenders in the pocket and all of that. So while I don't think he is a master at it like a Tom Brady was, he's much better at it than he was in 2020 and 2019. Which to me is a good thing, because you want to play winning football, you can't take 46, 45 sacks like he took in Houston both those years that I mentioned. So that is a good thing, right? Deshaun Watson last year, at least in 2023, seems to have made some improvements at making sure that he does not get hit as much as, well, not hit. He does not get sacked as much as he has at the same rate as he has in previous years. He needs to bring that pressure to sack number down. I think we need to be talking about a pressure to sack rate that's below 19 for Deshaun Watson. And I think if he does do that, you feel significantly better about where this offensive line is. I think for Deshaun, you want to talk about a sack number that's in the 30s, so he doesn't take 40 plus sacks. You want that to be in the 30s. He has to do a better job of managing the game than he did in those 2020 and 2019 seasons. I kind of like how he managed the game last year. And part of managing the game is making sure you don't fall behind the sticks. You're not getting false starts. You're not getting illegal procedures. You're not getting illegal formations. You're not getting any kind of those penalties, delay of games, and also you're not taking sacks and getting behind the sticks, right? We need Deshaun to be a playmaker, but also be somebody who could take advantage of when the Browns get the ball ahead of the sticks, and when they can play that football that they play so well. So not just the Browns offensive line that's going to be judged here. Deshaun Watson and how helpful he is or unhelpful he is to pass protection is going to be judged and evaluated all year. So that's my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. You have a great day. Have a better night. Peace.